Assalamu alaikum. Now we have teaching English as a foreign language, foreign or second language, chapter number 3. Each chapter we have questions, many questions. So we have the first question is what is EFL teaching setting? What is ESL teaching settings? And why are these two terms EFL, ESL not always adequate to describe English teaching strategies? At the beginning, we have EFL is an acronym for English as a foreign language and is studied by people who lived in places which English is not a first language, such as in Italy, Saudi Arabia, and Vietnam. ESL is acronym for English as a second language. People who study ESL speaks other language such as Spanish, Arabic, Chinese as their first or native language. However, they live in places where English is used as a first or native language, such as Australia and New Zealand, Canadian, United Kingdom, and United States. There are differences between EFL ESL settings. The first differences is between EFL ESL and population or sample of the students. In population, EFL is heterogeneous. Population in EFL is homogeneous, while in ESL is heterogeneous. Okay, so we have the differences between EFL ESL settings. In population, the first point in EFL is homogeneous, while in ESL heterogeneous. So we have the first point, EFL population is homogeneous, such as we have example here in Korean, Germany, Egyptian. ESL settings, the population are what? Heterogeneous. The student from, also we have example such as Japanese, Korean, Malaysian, okay, United Arab Emirates, and Turkey. Further, we have another differences between EFL ESL settings. We have the second one, the difference number 2 in setting. In EFL settings, there are fewer chances for students to use English outside the classroom, while in contrast with ESL, when students in ESL leave the classroom, they can enter any number of situations in which they can hear and use English. So we have the difference number 2. Difference number 3 in goals. The goals in EFL and ESL is quite different. So we have English as a foreign language. We have two or dual goals. In EFL we have dual goals. The first one is to pass English entrance exams to enter good high school and universities, and the second one is to be able to use English as a global languages. And we have is directed as being able to analyze and comprehend English, to pass entrance exams, and to communicate in English with the people from other parts of the world. The goals, however, the goal is often in ESL is different. In ESL in United States and other countries, they use English as a medium of communication. It's English. The ESL settings, the purpose is to tie it to literacy. The aim is to use English like native speaker, including being able to read, write, interact in English in culturally defined way. Okay, we have in EFL settings, we are still in the goals. In EFL settings, who want to be the individual, at the beginning of the chapter, at the beginning of this paragraph, of course, there are individuals in EFL settings who want to be literate in English and need to learn English to communicate effectively with others, including those interested in living abroad, doing international business, working as translator, and working in the tourist industry. So we have the meeting of the needs of the student in order to use English language. When they learn English language, they use it in order to in many different situations. Okay. If you go to the other page, here on page 41, you will find that EFL settings. Likewise, we have conclusion here. Likewise, there are those who study in ESL. Here we have ESL settings who need to pass entrance exam. For example, student at language institutes who have to pass TOEFL exam. If you, of course, you have heard here about the exam. Here we have the other examples about considering an all learners within EFL ESL settings as having the same goals. Okay, here we have the other page. Although we have different languages, like in British is different from what we call it the English language, the official language. British is different from the Singapore, different from Chinese, different from the other languages. So we have different languages. They use English language. Different is what? In what? In native language or language such as pronunciation, the choice of the word, and the syntactic features. For example, in English, use in Singapore has syntactic, in other word order, phonetic pronunciation of the vowel sounds, and lexical word choice. Features of Chinese are mainly so much so that is difficult for many considers to comprehend this variety of English when they first encounter it. On the next video, we will explain I'll explain what are examples of EFL and ESL teaching settings. So we have different settings, EFL settings, and we have ESL settings. What is meaning of settings? Settings, it means that the environment of the classroom, or what we call it inside the classroom, in which they are learn English language either with the schools or with universities. Here we have EFL examples. Here examples in EFL teaching settings. What these situations or teaching settings in which can we find EFL settings? We can find EFL settings students in school and in universities. In school, they use it, for example, here we have many examples. For example, Ministry of Education established a new English curriculum for the public schools that include teaching English to elementary school students through music, games, and other engaging activities. Other examples include in Turkey's recently lowering the start of English from 6th grade to the 4th. It means that they teach their students the 4th stage in public school. Okay, so we have another example in Italy. Italy also they use in Saudi Arabia reform to do the same. Here we have students' experiences. Students' experience vary from country to country. So we have different student experience from country to country. For example, in elementary school in South Korea, the teacher devote 40 minutes twice each week. It means that 2 lectures of 1 week to English. They teach student English language 2 days in a week in South Korea. So we have example in South Korea. Teacher attempt to teach English through integrate skills. So we have integrating of the skills of reading. Integrating, it means that collect. Okay. At the same time, they teach the student reading, writing, listening, and speaking. As mentioned before, so we have four skills in teaching English, or 4 skills in teaching language. They are very important. These 4 skills are very important in order to teach our students. They do this by having student experience games. They learn their students these skills through games, songs, reading activities, but they also rely on traditional, like repeat after me and simple grammar manipulation activities. If you go to other page, on page 43, you will find what the teacher do. The emphasis in the class is placed more and more on teaching these skills in listening and reading as students move through junior to senior high school. However, unlike South Korea, they use Saudi Arabia. They use English for 4 days in a week. Okay, 45 minutes per lesson or class. The textbook, it means that book they study, are designed under the supervision of Ministry of Education. This is the same of Iraq, okay, what have done in our country. These texts observed by Saudi traditionals of Muslims values and emphasize having students learn to read, write, listen, and speak English, but rather more to where they focus toward the comprehension and communication. These are 2 examples about Saudi Arabia and South Korean in public school. Here we have another example in university EFL settings. In university, most university-wide England programs include courses on grammar, reading, listening, conversation. Non-native English speakers often teach the reading and grammar relative clauses, while native or near-native speakers, often nationals who have studied abroad, and often asked to teach conversation because of widely held and often believe that the only native English speakers can teach students to converse. Some universities in EFL settings offer English for a specific purpose, ESP. ESP, it means that English for specific purpose courses to fill a need within a particular major. For example, here we have example about ESP, student major in hotel. There are students in hotel management high to required to take a course on tourism and English. Students majority in tourism, a course on English and Muslim communication and mass communication, and a student major to peer med course reading medical journals and writing written English. Okay, here we have examples. So we have example in ESP. How can the student needs? How can we deal with the student needs in hotel management? Okay, and in tourism, how can deal with the tourism? How to communicate with them in medical? And we have another example in medical journals. The student another needs. Okay. So we have other needs like English applied linguistics and English linguistics and English studies literature. A number of public language schools in EFL settings has a grade. Here we have another example about public language schools in EFL settings. Some of these schools have assortment of English program and classes, while the other are smaller and more specialized. Okay, here we have example in Taiwan. What are the needs of Taiwan? The needs for listening and basic writing skills. And we have the children here. We have the children English languages needs. What are the children needs? So we have 3 points, 3 main Also, there are many programs, or and how can we teach AUA studies? It means that there are the three main programs: the regular program, and we have the intensive academic English program, and we have the last one, special courses such as TOEFL preparation. In addition to language schools with a variety of programs and courses, we have also two schools specialized in preparing high school students to pass college entrance exam in such subject as English. Okay. If you go to other page, page 45, there are also a number of smaller public language schools. The schools enrolled with the group of 7 to 10 children. There are many many schools that are use a small number of the students, like 7 to 10 children, and we have like what they have done in private language program. This is kind of program that these programs are usually established to meet English language needs of people who work in government positions such as diplomats and embassy personnel industry. And also we have airline industry, oil industry, and business. Okay, here we have another examples in other pages. So we have the next topic about ESL settings, ESL teaching settings. In ESL teaching settings, we have also many teaching. Okay, before that we have I go to the other previous pages about another type of private language program. We have many types about programs. You should know the types here. That is based in home-based school. Okay, such as preparing. Here we have such as preparing high school student to pass college entrance exam, giving business people chance to practice conversation in English. All the programs is to we should know them in order to what they have one purpose, is how to prepare students to communicate in language, to read language, to listen about English language, to read, listen, speak, and write. These are four skills, the main important skills in order to focus about them. Okay. If you go to the other page, what we call it about ESL teaching settings. In ESL teaching settings is a wave of immigrants to English-speaking countries such as Australia, Canada, United States has created a challenge for public school system to educate children who are just beginning to learn English. So this is a wave of ESL in public school to learn children English language. These students arrive to a variety education background from different with a varied educational backgrounds. So we have different students coming from different countries. Okay. Some have had extensive schooling in their native countries and are well prepared for academic challenges ahead. Others arrived unprepared for grade level school work, having had little formal education. So we have different students from different college. They use ESL teaching settings. Some students, as mentioned, they have well prepared, and other students are under prepared. Okay, so we have different students. Also, we should know that we know how to teach students who have native-like proficiency in spoken English, but have ESL features in their writing. If you go to the other page, you will find the model Okay, as I mentioned to you, we have different programs, okay, to teach and address the student language and academic needs. Needs to what? Need to teach English. The first model is the pull-out model. What is meaning of pull-out model? In which ESL specialists and students out of their grade level classroom for ESL lessons, pulling from the name from the model, pull out, pulling the student out of their classrooms has certain benefits. As Baker point out, Baker is the name of author, point out, it means that indicate time can be used to address content needs, review lessons, to clear up language and content problems, bond with the person who cares and provide survival level oral English and reading instruction for the beginning level of student. It is important to point out the pull-out programs with a little direct connection to what students are studying and doing in their grade level classroom have been shown to be an effective way to facilitate successful in school. So we have another program, another approach is what? Inclusion model. Inclusion, it means that including, as I mentioned here, inclusion program or inclusion model. This is another approach in which ESL teacher goes into the classroom to work with the ESL students, either as small group or individually. During classroom instruction, there are certain benefits from this approach. To begin, the inclusion gives the ESL teacher direct access to what is going on in the classroom. The assignments that are being done and the kinds of challenges these assignments might have for ESL students. And ESL teachers can immediately address this program. So we have many problems, to address problems. So we have many problems in this approach, on this model, and unfortunately, it is not always possible. The first problem that are faced by the teachers, it's always possible for ESL specialists to be in the classroom. Another problem, number 2, is that of embarrassment. Some ESL teachers working in high school inclusion program, for example, have told me that some of these older students do not want to draw attention to themselves and their language limitations in front of classroom. So we have two problems in inclusion model, and we have another model, the third approach. If you remember, we have mentioned the two models. The first one is what? Pull-out model, and the second one is inclusion model, and this is the third one. The third one is called, the third approach to teaching ESL students is called team teaching model. So this is the third one, also known as a co-teaching model. The ESL teacher and the grade level teacher team teach the class as equal partners. They plan and take turn teaching both native and ESL students. One benefit, so we have use this model, a team teaching model. We have benefits, advantage. One benefit of the team teaching model is that ESL teacher can use ESL teaching strategies to present material to the student. Another benefit, another useful of or advantage of using team teaching, as Hanian Baker puts it, is that the ESL students perceive themselves as students rather than ESL students. They are not signaled out of difference. Here we have another programs here, programs of ESL. We have many programs like the newcomer program, pull out program, inclusions, as we have mentioned here, team teaching, subtractive bilingualism program, additive bilingualism program. We have if you go to the other page, you find these programs in this table. You will find in the discussion in details in this page 49. In 49 bilingual programs, including researcher subtractive bilingualism and additive bilingualism programs. In subtractive bilingualism begins with using the student native language while working at developing the second language. As students develop the second language and began to shift away from identifying with the home language and culture, greater emphasis is placed on using second language. Okay. The goal is to take culture identity away from the children. Additive bilingualism aims at, this is another program as mentioned here in this table. Additive bilingualism aims at providing students with the opportunities to become fully literate in both their native and second languages. Okay, here we have examples of innovative additive bilingualism class. Okay, if you go to this line, this class is taught a dual language immerse, and we have another program to create supportive, trusting language environment both inside and outside the classroom of these students, who became enabled to explore and learn from their difficulties in cross-culture and bilingual and cross-lingual communication, as they have studied science together with an activity based cooperative learning classroom. Okay, here we have another group of ESL students, as are those who travel abroad. As mentioned by a difference between EFL and ESL, we have some students travel to make English language in English speaking countries. They go to outside their countries to teach English. So if you go to the other page, you will find another examples and another programs. These programs, you should know them, as I mentioned, and I have make to you underline. You should know all of them, as I put number 1, number 2. You have many programs in order to know them. Here we have overlapping, so we can make overlapping setting between some settings. They are overlap between EFL and ESL settings, like what we have called here in school. K12, this is the number of class. You can read it only to know the main ideas. Here we have the previous one about school, this one about university within a traditional EFL context. So we have different contexts in the school, differ from college. The last page is talking about how are different teaching settings woven into this book. This is general information, what we call it, give us a conclusion about the whole chapter on page 55. Thank you so much. Thank you for your listening.